India is far diverse compared to the European countries, and their population is just like 300 million. And what is the population of our country? 1.4 billion people living in this country. And imagine that to bind such a country together for so many years is itself a magic, and that magic has done by our constitution. Now you are entering into technical field, you know operating system, right? Every computer device has to have an operating system. All the applications, all other softwares are secondary to it, right? So the India country is run by a very special, unique operating system that we can say that the Constitution of India. The other offices, other institutions are just applications. If something happens to this operating system, nothing can function. We don't imagine what a historical phase that Babasaheb Ambedkar has brought to all of us, to such a diverse group of people who are living in the subcontinent. So, when we think about Babasaheb Ambedkar, one remarkable thing, as a student, we must learn from him. That is how to cultivate our intelligence. Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar has cultivated his intelligence to the highest level. Now, there is a difference between us and animals, right? Right or not? The animals have a very limited capacity to think. On the other hand, we have a very special human consciousness that reflects back on itself. In other words, we can think in terms of the symbols and signs. The animals cannot. Therefore, if you look around you now, everything has been designed, created by our human mind. Right? Like the mic I am using to talk to you, the podium that I am using, everything in this room is designed, created by the human mind. And to cultivate human mind, to cultivate the highest form of the intelligence. If we ever have to look at Babasaheb Ambedkar from one dimension, I can look at Babasaheb Ambedkar from many directions. From economics, from sociology, from constitutional, any direct dimension. But today I am going to look at Babasaheb Ambedkar as a person who has cultivated his intelligence to a very highest level, and as a student, I urge you all to follow in his footsteps, to cultivate what you are endowed with to the highest possible, that is the mind you want to the highest. What I am going to do today is to give you some practical sort of instructions from Babasaheb Ambedkar's life, and if you bear them in your mind, I assure you that you will be exactly walking in the footsteps of Babasaheb Ambedkar and exactly achieving those states of mind which that great man has achieved. And those mental states that we achieve are not just useful for us. They just don't lift you to the highest. What they do, they transform the world around you. Imagine India without Babasaheb Ambedkar. We cannot think about India, without Babasaheb Ambedkar. Where we would have been had it not been for that great man? As a country, we would be nowhere. So, the most important thing for all of you as a student to understand is 7 principles from Babasaheb Ambedkar, like directly from his mouth. I am going to talk to you about, and I am going to elaborate them a little bit. So, whenever you read, Babasaheb Ambedkar has 50,000 books in his collection. Do you know that? 50,000 books is not a small number. He was maybe one of the rarest of the human beings who built a house for the books. All the time he was surrounded by the books. I have gone to the libraries where the books have been placed now in Bombay, Siddharth College, in Military College. I have seen the kind of books, the kind of volumes, the kind of reports that Babasaheb Ambedkar had. I would say that he is much on a higher level than the data scientist of today. The kind of information that Babasaheb Ambedkar has processed, he has not just accumulated the books. He was not a bibliophile just to collect the books. He was somebody who would engage very deeply with the books. So the first thing first I am going to tell you, when you look at the portrait of Babasaheb Ambedkar, when you aspire to cultivate that intelligence, and I think everybody should aspire to become Babasaheb Ambedkar. to cultivate your intelligence. That's your duty as a human being. As a human being, if you have one duty you are endowed with, that is to cultivate your mind to the highest level, like Babasaheb Ambedkar. So, when you read, and he was a master reader, he could read. In one record, he said that he has read 6,000 books in a week, 6,000 pages in a week. Or 6,000 pages is a large number. He could read, if there is a small book, or 200, 300 books are nothing, pages book is nothing for him. He could just read it. Sometimes he could just browse the book and throw it away. Because he already knew the content of the book. Right? Because he has read so much that his reading speed was to a very high level. So, as a student, what you should cultivate in you is the habit of reading, like Babasaheb Ambedkar. Now, every time we look at any photo of Babasaheb Ambedkar, either you will see him reading books, or you will see him writing something, or he is always engaged in some kind of a mental cultivation. Some kind of mental cultivation. He didn't waste no time browsing the screen, looking at the reels, right? He didn't spend time like that. And he was totally away from the entertainment. And we would think, what would happen if we are away from the entertainment? But at one point he has said that he has experienced the highest bliss by reading the books. When you read deeply, when you cultivate knowledge, when you understand something deeply, that is the path to the highest happiness in the world. That's why you see the scientists working 24/7. If there is a curiosity awakened in you to understand something, to go deep into something, then that gives you a bliss, happiness that cannot be compared to anything in the world. Right? So the first principle is read carefully. Don't just read to accumulate ideas. जैसे हम लोग रटते हैं, बराबर है? हमें कोई चीज समझती है तो हम क्या करते हैं, उसको रट डालते हैं. But if you want to follow the method of Babasaheb Ambedkar, you don't memorize the thing. What you try to do, you try to understand things very deeply. अगर आप इंजीनियरिंग कर रहे हैं, कोई कंसेप्ट है, तो रट के आप रट लोगे उसको, 2 दिन के बाद आप भूल जाओगे, right? But if you understand something deeply, you will never forget it. So don't read just for the sake of accumulating the ideas, accumulating the definitions without understanding what are they. It's a very important principle I am telling you. So read so that your mind will be churned with ideas. Right? Your mind will be awakened to the ideas. Your mind will be refreshed with the ideas. And that is what Babasaheb Ambedkar has recommended. Read to churn up the ideas and not for mere accumulation of the ideas. And in Babasaheb Ambedkar's scheme of thinking and action, ideas are not innocent. Ideas act in the world. Right? So whatever ideas you accumulate, if you apply them, they have a transforming power on the world. So please understand this, that read very carefully so that you churn up the ideas, not just accumulate the ideas. And always remember to have the open mind. Because you never know. If you already have a closed mind, you cannot learn anything. You are a dead person. If your mind is closed to the new things, new ideas, new imaginations, you are as if a dead human being. There is no difference between you and animals. So what you should do? As a student, what you should do? You should always read with open mind. Keep your mind open. The open mind is a beautiful mind. The closed mind is a very ugly mind. Don't get yourself locked into the ideas of caste. Don't get yourself locked into the ideas of gender. Just let your mind be free. Just let your mind be open. So whenever you read something, you keep your mind open. If you learn to keep your mind open, then your comprehension power increases manifold. So I would urge you all to read with open mind. And never get enslaved with any idea. Don't become the slave of any idea. However beautiful those ideas are, however great those ideas are, don't become slave to the idea. Because ideas are always new, always dynamic, always in motion. Before the advent of science, people used to think that the earth is flat, right? Right or wrong? Huh? We used to think that the earth is the center of the entire world. We thought that some God created us. But when the human mind examined the open mind, what we found? The earth is not flat. What we found? What we found? We are not the center of the universe. We are just a mere speck, less than a speck. We understood that we all got created through a very gradual, change that has occurred through the billions of years, right? So this is very important, that never become slave to any idea. That's what Babasaheb Ambedkar was. You are never slave to any idea. The other thing that when you study, you always contrast in your mind two contrasting ideas. It's very important to think about ideas, to understand something very deeply. That you have this contradiction in your mind. Like, if you want to think about a present contradiction, think about the Constitution of India, which assures you liberty, equality, fraternity, justice, and all the good qualities, dignity, and all. But on the other hand, if you look at society, the society is not imbued with these values. There is a contradiction between what the Constitution says and how we live. Right? So the contradiction, contrasting ideas forces our mind to generate new ideas. So always think with the contrasting ideas. Very important tool that Babasaheb Ambedkar has enabled. So, why I am telling you this, if you read like this, something happens. You cultivate your personality. You are not a copycat person. You become an independent thinker. You stood up, you stand up among the middle of the people. You have your own voice, you have your own ideas to articulate. In other words, you cultivate your human personality. Right? You are no more a Kashmiri at the hands of others. Right? You are not controlled by others. All the time you are controlled by others. All propaganda, whatever we see, whatever YouTube channels we watch, whatever it is we watch, we don't think independently. We borrow the ideas from others. We don't have any original ideas of ourselves. So if we want to cultivate your personality, that's the sure path to cultivate your personality. Now your mind is not just like a CPU that you just put the files in that. Our human mind is very magical. What it does, there is a crucible where things mix. So your mind is a dynamic thing. It's a crucible of ideas where you put lot of ideas and the new ideas come. Right? So your mind is not an ordinary device. By the virtue of our existence, by our birth, we all are special. Don't underestimate yourself ever. Each one of us is very special. We are endowed with a very special consciousness, a very special mind. We are all endowed with. And if we use our mind to churn up the idea as a crucible, then something magical things to happen. So first, the second thing I would like to tell you, that don't treat your mind as a dustbin or just a storage, memory storage. Your mind is much more than that. Your mind is capable of creating new ideas. So, mind must act as a sort of machine and assemble all facts, and should not be like cinema graphs. It should not be like a camera, just taking the photographs. Your mind should be very special. It should, create new ideas. And another thing that you should bear in mind is, knowledge is very difficult to get. It's not an easy thing. To cultivate your personality is not an easy job. We all have to work hard to earn the knowledge, to get the knowledge. And for that, we have to learn the language. Now I have been studying some of the books by Babasaheb Ambedkar. I can tell you, the English of those books is so powerful. And I will request all of you, even if you agree with him or don't agree with him, read something of him. Engage with his writing, and that will help you to cultivate your own personality. He is somebody who will not ask you to surrender to his thinking. He is somebody who would ask you to think for yourself. So I would request all of you, whenever you get an opportunity, read some of his works. Because they channelize something in you. They make you think more than what you are capable of thinking at this moment. You can be thinking much more than what you are capable of thinking if we engage with Babasaheb Ambedkar. So cultivate the language, because language is a tool through which we can unlock the knowledge. So I would urge all of you to cultivate your language, particularly English language, because all the knowledge is now in English language. So you use special attention to cultivate the language. Every discipline has a different language. Economics has a different language. The same words have a different connotation in different disciplines. For example, if it's a bank in finance, it has a different connotation. If you talk about banking with you will have a different connotation. If you talk about the rules, right? Banking of rules. So you see, you have to understand the terms very deeply. Very deeply, you have to understand it out. The other principle that I would like to tell you is you train your mind. You train your memory. And how do you do that? You see, I give this example, about internet, right? All of you know about internet? There are different web pages which are linked together. That's how the Google works. Because everything is linked up together. Right? Right or not? If you look at the artificial intelligence, what happens? There are tokens which are linked with, many tokens. Right? So when you put one idea in AI, it goes into the program and it gives you the next ideas. It generates the next idea for you. So training the nodes is very important, training the memory is very important. And how do you train the memory? This is very important. How do you all train the memory? I will give you a short method that Babasaheb Ambedkar used. He used to take down the notes. So whenever he read the books, he has 4 pencils of different colors and he used to take down the notes, he used to write on the margin. And not only that, he has these small paper cards where he used to jot down the ideas, jot down the references, and he preserved them till the end of his life. He didn't throw them away because that has cultivated his memory to the extent that even after many years, he could recall exactly where he has read that idea into which book. So if you practice like this record keeping, training your memory, like whatever the way internet does work, then you can train your memory. He could remember certain things after 25 years, 30 years. That was the power of his memory. And the most important thing that we have to understand is your thinking can break your bad habits. If you learn to think, if you are enjoying thinking, then that does something to you. It destroys your bad habits. So many of us have accumulated a lot of bad habits, right? Or only I have accumulated bad habits. You don't have any bad habits? Huh? You get up early in the morning, you go for a walk, you study, right? Your life is ideal. You don't do any harm to anyone. Is that so? You are very polite at home. Bolo? Now we all have some habits. And they are cultivated over a period of time. The habits are so entrenched into our personality that they become a part of our personality. But when you read, when you cultivate thinking, when you try to learn new ideas, you break your habit patterns. People say we have met Babasaheb Ambedkar, that he was such a personality. You belong to any religion, any caste. Once you come in contact with him, you don't want to leave him. You don't want to leave him because he's having so much impact, transformative impact on you that you just have to be with him. Don't you want to cultivate that personality? That a personality that will attract a lot of people? So the way to do that is to do away with your bad habit, and the thoughts are the short way to cultivate the good habits. Another dimension that I want all of you to cultivate is to write. Right? Engage with your hands. When you write, something very magical happens. The abstract ideas that are running in your head, they become concrete ideas when you write them on the piece of paper. Okay? So this principle is very important. Write. If you look at Babasaheb Ambedkar, he used to write a lot. Sometimes he will turn the papers, writing. And your writing should not be ornamental. Your writing should be forceful. The kind of words and terms Babasaheb Ambedkar has invented, you cannot imagine. इंडिया की कास्ट सिस्टम क्या है, लोगों को पता नहीं चलता था क्या है, सब प्रैक्टिस करते हुए पता नहीं चलता था. बाबासाहेब अम्बेडकर ने उसको डिस्क्राइब किया 2 वर्ड में, ग्रेडेड इनइक्वालिटी. क्या बोला? Are you paying attention to me or not? क्या बोला बाबा साहब अम्बेडकर ने? ग्रेडेड इनइक्वालिटी, नॉट ऑर्डर इनइक्वालिटी, हाई और लो, रिच और पुअर की नहीं। यहाँ भारत के अंदर ग्रेडेड इनइक्वालिटी है। देयर आर ग्रेड्स, हाईएस्ट है, हाई है, राइट राइट, हाईएस्ट है, हायर है, हाई है, लोअर है, लोएस्ट ग्रेडेड है। जो लोग ऑपरेट है वो भी अपने आप में ग्रेडेड है। दो कास्ट के लोग एक साथ मिलकर काम नहीं कर सकते, इवन इफ यू आर लोअर कास्ट। Why? Because we feel that there is somebody to dominate, below you. इसको भी अच्छे से निपट किया बाबा साहब अम्बेडकर ने। To come to this idea of a very sophisticated mind. उसको और ज़्यादा बोला salute above, keep below. हम लोग सब क्या सोचते हैं कि मेरे नीचे इसको दबाओ, कोई ऊपर ना तो salute करे, right or wrong? हाँ? तो ये जो है इतना conceptualization है, ये करने के लिए बहुत दिमाग लगता है। ये ऑर्डिनरी माइंड की बात नहीं है। आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट माइंड हु हैज कल्टिवेटेड हिमसेल्फ टू द हाईएस्ट लेवल। एंड I urge you, to read something of him. You should be anything about. So your writing should be very forceful, convincing. Don't worry what other people think about you. If your logical conclusion is you are upsetting the people, go for it. Because truth is important than appeasement of the people, right? जो सच होता है वो इम्पोर्टेंट होता है, लोगों को खुश करना इम्पोर्टेंट नहीं होता है। बिकॉज द ट्रूथ इज गोइंग टू स्टैंड इन द टेस्ट ऑफ टाइम। द ट्रूथ इज गोइंग टू स्टैंड द टेस्ट ऑफ टाइम। अपीसमेंट इज नॉट गोइंग टू स्टैंड द टेस्ट ऑफ। दैट्स व्हाई यू सी द लार्जर एप्रिसिएशन ऑफ बाबा साहब अम्बेडकर ओवर द पीरियड ऑफ टाइम। You next 10 years, I'm telling you, more people will engage with Baba Saheb Ambedkar because that's a sure path to become the best of a human being. So your writing should be forceful. Your writing should not be dull. You should write in a way that should convince the people. You should not write just for the propaganda's sake. You write for the sake of truth. You write for the sake of benefiting the other human beings. You should develop tremendous love for reading. You should develop tremendous love for reading. Why? You don't know, there are young boys and young girls. Baba Saheb Ambedkar has given a very beautiful example for young boy and young girl. Suppose if you are in love with some girl, boy in love with some girl, or girl in love with some boy, what happens? What happens? We are ready to do anything. Where she goes, what she does, how she dresses, right? Baba Saheb says that you should love knowledge more than you love your beloved. You understand? That should be the love that we should have for the knowledge. It's not an ordinary love, it's a love that's very deep. It is the only authentic love that we can talk about. Right? So if you love knowledge like that, then you are ready to sacrifice anything for the sake of that. So now some of you are in the first year engineering confused. Oh, the syllabus is different, so many things, studies, giving assignment. But if you truly love what you are doing, you commit yourself, you dedicate yourself, right? So your first love should be knowledge. You should love knowledge more than you love your beloved. So read a lot. Read a lot. Just don't read engineering books. Read a lot. Cultivate the habit of reading. I passed UPSC when I was 24 years old. I'm not trying to boast myself. I'm telling you why it happened. Because in my house there was a habit of reading a lot of things. Not just one thing, not just engineering. You begin to read, take interest in the world around you. Right? You should take interest in politics, you should take interest in economics, you should take interest in the latest science and technology. You cultivate your mind, because your mind is limitless. Right? Your mind has no limits. I told you, we are all blessed with such thing that it can be cultivated to the highest. You cannot even imagine how much we can achieve with this mind. But I told you that if we use our mind as a dustbin, there is a very great Buddhist philosopher, Nagarjuna. I don't know whether he is said to be the Einstein of India, but I say Einstein is the Nagarjuna of the world, of Germany. Because Nagarjuna was the first person in the world to talk about relativity. He was of course a very big Buddhist philosopher. You might have heard about a knowledge tradition, Nalanda, Takshashila. China today, whatever development it has now, is because of Buddhism. We don't know that whatever we lost, China cultivated. सब शिवान साहब आके सब बुक लेके गया, उन्होंने प्रिजर्व करके रखा, हमने कर दिया, खो दिया। आज चाइना कहीं के नहीं बोलता, नागत भी बोलता है कि अगर हम अपने ह्यूमन लाइफ को if we don't use it to cultivate higher, we are using the golden pot for आप समझ रहे कितना खतरनाक उपमा दिया, इतना अच्छा हमको सब मिला है माइंड और बॉडी। इफ वी डोंट कल्टिवेट इट प्रॉपर्ली, दैट मीन्स वी आर यूजिंग इट विद द ग्रेट गोल्डन पॉट टू स्पीक टू इट। सो ये बात ध्यान रखो कि रीड करना है तो उसको इंटरेस्ट मत दी, क्यूरियोसिटी बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, इंटरेस्ट बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है। जिसको भी इंटरेस्ट लगता है, आता है, वो कर लेता है। और एक बात मैं बताऊंगा आपको, कोई चीज आपके मन के परे नहीं है। बहुत सामने पूछा गया कि भैया आप इतने डिफिकल्ट सब्जेक्ट को कैसे मास्टर करते हो, तो उन्होंने बोला कि मैं कोई भी चीज करने से पहले सोचता हूँ कि मैं कैसे करूँगा। जैसे मान लो इफ यू फील दैट मैथमेटिक्स इज डिफिकल्ट, if you made up in your mind that mathematics is difficult, it is going to remain difficult for you forever, because you have already instructed your mind that I cannot do it. समझ में आ गया? लेकिन जब तुमने सोचा कि मैं ये कर लूंगा, क्या है कर लूंगा, तो हो जाएगा। You understand? Do you understand what I am saying? The moment you say I cannot do it, you will never do it, क्योंकि तुम्हारा माइंड रेडी नहीं है। तुमने बोला कि ये कर लूंगा, हो गया। हो गया। जिस दिन तुमको किसी सब्जेक्ट में इंटरेस्ट आया, हो गया, तुमको उसका कॉम्पिटिशन शुरू हो गया। इंटरेस्ट नहीं है तो क्या पढ़ोगे, बराबर है नहीं? तो सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट है कि फोकस माइंड रखो। और लास्ट, मतलब ज्यादा नहीं बोलूंगा, लास्ट अवॉइड टेम्पटेशन। बहुत टेम्पटेशन है आज के डेट में। जो इकोनॉमिक्स है, इकोनॉमी जो पैसे के लिए नहीं है, मॉनेटरी इकोनॉमी नहीं है, अभी है अटेंशन इकोनॉमी। हमारे पास अटेंशन होता है, सारी कंपनियां हमारी अटेंशन देखो। ये जो एल्गोरिथम डिटेक्ट करता है इंस्टाग्राम का, आप बोलेंगे यार 2 मिनट में रील देख सकता हूं, लेकिन आज तक कैसे हुआ कि 2 मिनट देखा आपने कभी? क्या होता है, एक स्क्रॉल करते हैं, दूसरा, तीसरा, चौथा, पांचवा, क्योंकि उसके हमारे माइंड को पढ़िए, उसको पता है कि इसको माइंड को, हमको इसके डोपामाइन को कैसे एक्टिवेट करना है। यू अंडरस्टैंड? हां, तो जो अटेंशन है हमारा, आपको अटेंशन हमारा फोकस होना चाहिए। Our attention should be sustained towards something for some longer period of time. लेकिन हमारा अटेंशन क्या होता है, व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप में चला जाता है, इंस्टा में चला जाएगा, फेसबुक में चला जाएगा, बराबर है? 10 ग्रुप रहते हैं हमारे व्हाट्सएप के, तो 10 बातें एक साथ चलती रहती है, बराबर है? तो करने की पहली बात ये है कि अवॉइड द टेम्पटेशन ऑफ योर एंटरटेनमेंट। करो जो भी हमारे माइंड को, अपने माइंड को जो भी होती है, लेकिन सिर्फ एंटरटेनमेंट के लिए अगर आप माइंड को कल्टिवेट करते हैं तो आवर माइंड बिकम्स वेरी स्लगिश, और माइंड बिकम्स वेरी ग्रॉस, एंड आवर माइंड बिकम्स नॉट वैल्यूएबल। इसलिए जो अटेंशन हम कहाँ देखते हैं वो इम्पोर्टेंट है। सो लर्न टू गिव अटेंशन लाइक बाबासाहेब अम्बेडकर। इन अ नॉर्मल स्पैन ऑफ टाइम ही यूज्ड टू स्टडी फॉर हाउ मेनी आवर्स? कैन एनीवन टेल मी? व्हेन ही वाज अ स्टूडेंट, हाउ मेनी आवर्स बाबासाहेब अम्बेडकर वाज स्टडीइंग? एनी आइडिया? एनी आइडिया? He was studying 18 hours. अभी हमको लगा 18 घंटे। अरे भैया ये सब पढ़ सकते ना? पढ़ सकते कि नहीं? पढ़ सकते कि नहीं? अगर तुम्हें कोई चीज में इंटरेस्ट आ गया, तुम्हें लगा कि मेरे को इसको मेरे को समझना है, तो कितने घंटे कैसे जाएंगे पता नहीं चलेगा, रात है दिन है पता नहीं चलेगा, राइट? ऐसा बाबासाहेब अम्बेडकर के साथ हुआ है। रात चली गई उनको पता ही नहीं कि एक दिन बदल गया करके, because he is so engrossed in study that he has lost. You understand what I'm saying? So, in Polar University, he used to study for 18 hours. Normal times, as a student in his student life, he used to study 14 hours. तो आपसे मैं कितना डिमांड करूँ? मैं तो उतना नहीं करता, लेकिन तुम तो यंग लोग हो, तुम्हारा करियर है, तो तुमसे कितना डिमांड करना चाहिए? कितना करना चाहिए? 8 घंटा कॉलेज का छोड़ दिया, 8 घंटा तुमने लीव ले लिया, बाकी 8 घंटे के साथ कितने लोग, कितने घंटा तुम्हें, कितने नहीं रुकने सर? स्टूडेंट को घंटे देने जाएंगे सर, क्या करेंगे आप? सी व्हाट आई एम टेलिंग यू, दिस इज अ पाथ towards the best of yourself, to become the best of yourself. Now that's your choice, whether you want to follow the wrong master or you want to follow the right master. अभी वर्ल्ड के जो बड़े बड़े लोग थे वो पढ़ते हैं, तो एक वर्ल्ड का बहुत बड़ा विद्वान है तेरी अंडर से, बहुत बड़ा विद्वान है वर्ल्ड का, इकोनॉमिक फिलोसफी को लिखा है, हिस्ट्री को पढ़ता है, उसने एक किताब में लिखा है कि टू रीड बाबा साहब अम्बेडकर इज टू एंटर इनटू अ डिफरेंट वर्ल्ड ऑलटुगेदर। मैं नहीं कहता, तेरी अंडर से कहता है, टू रीड बाबा साहब अम्बेडकर टू एंटर इनटू अ डिफरेंट वर्ल्ड। I hope that we all will enter into that different world where we cultivate the best of ourselves and experience the joy, the bliss of knowledge and the transforming effect of that on others. बाबा साहब अम्बेडकर चले गए, लेकिन उनका जो कार्य है वो जनरेशन टू जनरेशन चलता रहेगा। ये ऐसा इंडिविजुअल पावर है जिसने देश को टूटने से बचाया है, ऐसा इंडिविजुअल पावर है कि जिसकी ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम से ये चलता है, सारी चीजें उसी से चलती हैं। So with this, I wish all the young students to follow at least 10% of Babasaheb Ambedkar and to live the best of their life. धन्यवाद, जय हिंद।